Hello again. Today I have a multi-axis high security lock for you, the FAB NZS 3B. This lock was loaned to me from Least as well as some images used in this video. Many thanks for that, my friend. This tricky lock has 3 rows of pins that contain 4 spring-loaded driverless locking elements. Each row is operating its own sidebar-like thing that is interacting with one separate blocking pin, so 3 sidebars and 3 blocking pins in total. There are 3 different types of pins in this lock, the minimum, medium and maximum lift as you can see in this image. The green marked areas with a reduced diameter is comparable with the true gate and is the height that correlates with the set position of each pin. The tip that interacts with the key is reduced as well. The half-transparent gray plate on the bottom should indicate the sidebar location. As you can see, there is no additional security feature for the minimum and medium lift pins that comes into play, so they behave like standard pins. The maximum lift element has a spool section that you have to set at least twice. The minimum lift also had this spool section, but this would only affect picking if you overset it. As said, is each of the 3 rows operating its own sidebar and blocking pin. This is a simplified top view where the sidebar is highlighted in dark gray and the true gates of the pins in green. The blocking pin on the right side in this image, that is sitting in the back of the lock and not on the side like most blocking elements in other locks, has to be pushed in the direction of the red arrow to open the lock. The pin diameter is preventing the sidebar from moving in this default position, so that the blocking pin can't retract. When all pins are set to the correct height and all true gates align with the sidebar cutout, the sidebar can move enough into the core so that the blocking pin can retract. This way of coupling the locking elements with the blocking elements reduces the feedback quite a lot, which is one main difficulty of this lock, additional to the tight keyway that won't give you much room to navigate with your tool. Placing your pick properly on the pin tip is sometimes a struggle and therefore you should choose a thicker tool. Avoid deep hooks as those increases the chance of oversetting some elements while picking others. This is the backside view where you can see the alignment of the blocking pins on the right side and the matching grooves in the backplate on the left side. Those 3 blocking modules are not always isolating completely, so you better check each pin row during picking several times. If one side is fully picked, you might feel a bit of core movement, which is always a good indicator. Keep in mind that the spool section of the pins will grab way stronger when the core could already rotate a bit. Unfortunately, this lock cannot be gutted non-destructively, so I can't show you the components of this specific lock in detail, but instead here an image of another FAB NZS gutted by Least.
These are 2 specimens of FAB NZS 3 locks, and these locks are quite interesting, but unfortunately they can't be gutted without causing irreparable damage to the lock. Here's the version used for secondary locks, and here's another one that can be used for automobiles, and as you can see I opened it already, so let's see what's inside. This lock in its normal configuration has this brass collar crimped around the lock body, so to open it up it has to be taken off, and when that is done the back plate of the lock can be taken out. This back plate has a crucial role in the working of the lock, as there are 3 dimples into which these 3 pins are sitting in, and when an incorrect key is put in, so when the incorrect key is inserted into the lock, these pins will not be able to enter into the core, and the lock will not rotate. As you can see it, or hopefully you can see, the pin moves only a little bit, but not enough to really clear the hole and allow the core to rotate. When the correct key is inserted, then these pins can fully retract into the core and allow the core to rotate. There's one interesting thing also on the key and the keyway. To ensure that the key is inserted and can be extracted from the lock only in the correct position, the key has two protrusions on two of its blades, and here hopefully you can see this part of the lock housing is smaller, so when the key is inserted, these protrusions hide behind the smaller part, and when the lock is turned 120 and 240 degrees, these protrusions will not allow extraction of the key. So you really have to turn full 360 degrees to be able to take the key out. Now, that's the back plate. Now let's take a look at the core itself. The log housing is not all that interesting. You just see the shape of the keyway, which really allows the key to enter, and then when it's turned, it cannot be taken out. Now these, as you saw already, these three pins can be taken out. And here you can see the front part of the lock. You can see the three metal bars that when correct key is entered, they can move forward and allow the core to rotate. Hopefully I will be able to show you. Sorry. Now you can see, hopefully, that the metal bar can go up and down. Now, as you can see, the core has a brass sleeve. This sleeve has a cutout here, so the lock can be pinned, or the core can be pinned using it. And the sleeve is crimped to the core, and I used a Dremel to cause as little damage as possible, and this allows me to pry crimped part, and let's hope so, and really take the sleeve off. Now it causes a bit of a problem for gutting the lock, because the chambers go up to this height, so when turning the sleeve, a spring can enter there and can be mangled. So I will use a bit unconventional technique to clear the first row. Okay, now let's hope the spring won't fly too far. Okay, so one is down and two stayed where they belong. I'll try to look for it later. Now, also, as you can see, the keyway has slight asymmetry. One of the, let's say, legs is shorter. I will use that as a guide to keep track which pin is which. So let's go clockwise. There's a second and a third pin. Okay, now I will use the intended technique of gutting or reassembling the lock using the window. Okay, now the sleeve is free. Yeah, we have the right chamber. So another pin. Okay, so that's the second row. Two more to go. Come on. Okay. Pins flying everywhere. Okay, and the last row. Come on. It seems that one spring is slightly mangled. And the last one. So here are the pins. Now, what's still missing is are those metal bars, and to remove them, this front of the lock has to be pried off, which reveals another interesting thing. We'll try to use a better tool. Let's hope there will be no bloodshed. Okay. So there's the first part. Then there seems to be steel insert. It's probably anti-drill. And then the last part again seems to be normal iron. And now these 3 metal bars can be taken out. They are spring-loaded. And they look like this. Now the core is completely empty. And here's the 3rd bar. And it's spring. Or maybe I'll put them here. Well, the way it works is following. I'll try to zoom in a bit so you can see detail of the pins. As you can see, each pin has one part that's really thin. When this thin part enters the bar in such a way, this cutout can get there, this bar can move. So to allow the core to the lock to open, all the pins have to align in such a way that their thin parts are fully inside this metal bar. Then the bar can move and these pins are allowed to enter the core and the core can rotate. What can be seen in here is also that there really are 3 different types of cuts. Here's one, there's another, and here's the 3rd type. All the rest are the same as one of these 3. Sorry. What's also interesting that this pin has something that reminds a bit of a spool, so it can, I guess, catch a bit on that metal bar and cause some trouble. What's also interesting is the fact that these pins, their bottom is hollow, so the spring is not all that compressed as one could think looking at this pin. And what's also interesting is the tip of the pin, and it causes a very interesting effect with the keyway shape. If the pick is not really centered on this tip, it can, or it seems that it pinches between the core side and the pin itself, and that pin can't be moved in this way, so you really have to be careful to have the pick centered on the pin. And yeah, I guess that's probably pretty much it as far as the FAB NZS 3 goes. If you have any questions, just let me know. I'll be happy to answer them. Plus, I'm going to share the photos with guys from LockWiki, so it should be possible to look up the insides of this lock.
Now that the mechanism is explained, I will continue with my picking attempt. Have fun! So, first let's try this key. And of course, it's working. Then I will apply clockwise tension from the 3rd row. And for picking I will use this quite strong bend PN02 hook from Multipick. Medium tension and starting with the 1st row on the left side. Click out of 1, nothing on 2, nothing on 3. Click out of 4. Click out of 3. Click out of 2, I think. Now this side feels jiggly. Let's continue with the 2nd row. Click out of 1. Something decent out of 2. 3 and 4 feel good, so I will continue with the 3rd row, and therefore I will switch the tension wrenches to get better access. Nice click out of the first. Second is loose. Third is loose. Decent click out of 4. Click out of 3 and a bit of core movement. Now all pins on this row feel jiggly, so I will switch back to see what is holding us up here. Quick check on the first row. They feel fine. So the first pin is okay. Oh, the second pin is binding. Releasing a bit of tension. And we are picked after setting the second pin. Let's take a close-up on this. You should be able to see the pins in their set position. And now I will turn back the core and you should also see the pins jumping back. Like this. Unfortunately, this lock is not guttable non-destructively, therefore I can't go any further than showing you the backside of this lock. And as you can see, this housing is cramped around the core. So no axis. Additional to that, there are some other parts that would have to be drilled, cut or dremeled to get access to the guts. And as this is not my lock, I won't do this. But I can highly recommend to go to Lee's channel, check out his videos, especially his FAB series, and the series about gutting, the video about gutting this lock. There he takes time to destroy one of his lock to show step by step what's inside and why and everything. Great video. You should definitely see this. From my part, that's all I can say. An interesting lock with a fancy design, tricky feedback, difficult access, and quite annoying to place the pick properly. But in general, it's not too difficult pick, I would say. The FAB NZS 3B. Exotic lock and of course worth to show. So thanks for watching, see you soon and goodbye.